several esteemed speakers to guide us through today, especially in this focus breakout session. So, our first session is all about the roadmap for FinTech development. Our speaker is one of the founding executive of PLDT and Smart Communications, Voyager, Innovations, and PayMaya Mobile Money. Previously, Smart Money. He started the FinTech business in the PLDT group in 2013. He has received multiple regional and global accolades, including being cited as one of the Asia's top 100 FinTech leaders, the first and only Filipino included in the list. Among his accomplishments include quickly scaling the Philippines' first and largest digital lending platform, Lender, with loans disbursed in excess of $800 million US. It's the most extensive digital footprint covering all 81 provinces nationwide and was recognized as the Corporate Finance Product of the Year by the Asian Banker. He started his career with the Economic Intelligence Unit as its associate editor, then with Landbank as one of the pioneer global banking officers when it established its overseas remittance business. This was followed by a stint at the International Finance Corporation as its consultant focusing on mobile money transfers in Mongolia. He was then invited by Visa to be the lead in customer strategy and market activation in global mobile payments covering 35 markets in Africa, Asia, Latin America, and Eastern Europe. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Lito Villanueva.
Okay, so I think this is the hardest part in this program because ito yung time na nakakaantok, di ba? Kasi kakakain nyo lang, di ba? So actually, habang nagsasalita siya dito, I was counting who among you here have been yawning, no? So mamaya magbibilang ako mamaya, no? So anyway, so again, thank you so much for inviting me to be part of this session or this conference, because I think this is one way by which you will be able to understand the digital landscape in the Philippines, no? So, one quick survey. Who among you here would have a PayMaya or a GCash app? Yan, okay. So, who among you here would have a Facebook account? Ha? Ilan dito yung mayroong more than one FB account? Diba? May mga aliases yung mga yan, eh. Okay? Okay. So, actually, karamihan, 80% lalaki yung may multiple FB accounts. Okay? Okay, who among you here are actually prepaid mobile users? Prepaid. Yung nagta-top up ng load. Okay, karamihan. Yan. Okay, so what I will be presenting to you now would be... Okay, that's technology. Okay. So, first muna. Yeah, okay. So, I am the founding chairman of the FinTech Alliance. That's the largest FinTech organization in the Philippines, comprising of all the big players in the industry. And I'm also the Chief Innovation and Inclusion Officer for RCDC and the Chief Digital Transformation Advisor for the entire Yunchenko group of companies. So, okay, next. Okay, ito siya, no? So, just to give you a snapshot of who FinTech Alliance is, this is the organization that has over 50 members, corporate members, practically covering over 90% of FinTech transactions in the Philippines right now. So these are the big players in the FinTech landscape in the country today. So ito siya. So that's Governor Jokno, the BSP governor that was appointed by President Duterte last March, no? And in fact, ito yung mga members, no? Some of the members of the FinTech Alliance. These are corporate members. Next one, okay, ito yung mga companies, okay? The members. In fact, I was just talking to one of the organizers here. We will have a tie-up with your organization, okay, for us to come up with what we call the digital internship program. Okay? Wherein, kasi I know for a fact that some of the students who are required to do OJTs would have to go to individual companies applying for as an OJT, no? Para kayo nag-house to house. No? But in this case, in fact, in the Philippines, there is changes, regional exchanges of talents in the region, wherein we will now be able to say, let you travel to say Singapore or to Thailand, etc., for you to be able to expose yourselves in the workings of FinTech in those countries. Okay, so these are some of the initiatives that we now have. So one is the adoption of FinTech Alliance Code of Ethics, no? And then the publication of the the first book on taxonomy of FinTech in the Philippines, development of the industry-wide sandbox or regulatory sandbox as we call it, or the test and learn approach, and so on and so forth. No? So a lot of things are happening actually in the industry. That's why it's a very interesting landscape for all Filipinos, because the whole idea is for us to be able to enable the Filipinos to have access to financial services, because there are about still 70% of the adult population that do not have access to formal financial services. Okay? Okay. Ito yung balita ngayong umaga. Okay? Nakita niyo siguro to, no? There are practically 3 lending companies that have now been charged by the National Privacy Commission for unethical practices. No? That's why we came up with a code of ethics and code of conduct. Ang kaso kasi nito, nung mga lending companies ito yung, di ba, who among you here have seen a online lending app? Oh, marami, di ba? Oh, so kayo hindi pa kayo pwedeng umutang kasi hindi kayo 18 years old, di ba? So, yung iba, if you could actually just type or search loan or online lending, ang dami-daming lalabas ng mga online lending apps sa inyo. So in fact, some of them, wala silang, even the new-to-credit individuals will be able to take out a loan through technology. Meaning, pag wala kang credit profile, you can actually take out a loan and then you just have to accept the terms and conditions. In fact, wala namang nagbabasa ng terms and conditions. Nakalagay doon, sino nagbabasa dito ng terms and conditions? Taas ang kamay. Okay, tama, dadalawa. Okay? Alam niyo yung terms and conditions, di ba? Na do you accept, etc., di ba? Sa FB, yung ba kayo nag-sign up kayo sa, yung nag-pay kayo ng account, binasa niyo yung terms and conditions? Wala rin, di ba? So, sige, bigay todo, lahat ng information, pati birthday, lahat, binigay, lahat. So, in this particular case, yung what we call the alternative credit scoring algorithm is, number 1, device-based. Meaning, kukuhanin nila lahat ng contact details mo sa telepono mo. Parang sinipsip lahat yung contact details. Pag hindi ka nakabayad, mag-SMS blast yung nagpautang sa'yo, sasabihin, please tell this guy to pay his amortization worth ganyan. So kahit kaibigan mo, kamag-anak mo, basta nasa contact list mo, makakatanggap ng gano'n. So it's actually shaming. Papahiyain ka para ma-pressure yung tao magbayad ng utang niya. That is actually illegal. That is actually against the data privacy law. That's why ang kaso nitong mga to, ganon. Actually, there are cases of suicide in Indonesia for shaming. Okay? That's why in the Philippines, there is a very strict law on data protection. That's why lahat ng owners, board of directors, and officers of those companies will be put to jail. Ganon katindi ang data privacy laws in the Philippines, which was patterned after the European Union. Next one, okay, masyadong maliit, no? Sabi ko na sa inyo kanina yung mga initiatives, no? Next is, okay, yung code of conduct, okay? Ito yung pledge of commitment. That's why you cannot be a member of the alliance without you adapting to the code of ethics and code of conduct. Okay, this was the FinTech Alliance Summit that was held at the BSP, wherein we provided the entire roadmap for the Philippine FinTech landscape. Okay, ito sabi ko rin sa inyo, no? We will have this engagement or partnership with your organization in coming up with a digital internship program with the top fintech players or fintech companies in the Philippines. No? This will be in collaboration with some of the schools that we will also be tying up with. Okay, ito yung, okay, sino nakaka-relate dito? Taas ang kamay. Oh, yan, okay. So, hindi ba So, a coping mechanism to address financial concerns, no? Filipinos weather through socio-economic trials. Yung tiis-tiis, okay? Hagila, hingi ng awa, para-paraan hanggang discarded. Okay, yung hingi ng awa, di ba yung, kamusta ka dyan? Eh, bahala na ang Diyos. Kasi dahil, di ba, puro ganon, masyadong naging religious, di ba? So, oo. So, minsan yun namang tiis-tiis, yun nga yung parang mamuluktot kung maiksi ang kumot, di ba, yung mga ganyan, di ba? So, yung hingi ng awa, yung hagilap, yung talagang taktak ng alkansya, o kaya kukuha ng mga ibang mga gamit sa bahay, yun nga, sasanla, etc. Ito naman, sa para-paraan, rumaraket. Okay? So, in all of this 5, you could actually see that the Filipino is actually hindi resilient, no? Hindi magugutom. Kasi mapagpagawa ng paraan, di ba? Yung magaling. Okay? So, kaya nga ang Pilipino kahit sa bansa, talagang parang kabute, no? Talagang sumusulpot, di ba? So, kaya naman niya. But ang Pilipino, pag nasa ibang bansa, magaling. Sumusunod sa batas. Pag nasa Pilipinas, wala. Di ba? Oo. So, sabi nga nila, di ba, si Faldon, di ba si Faldon, sino nakakakilaki Faldon? Di ba yung nagpakawala ng mga prisoners, di ba? Yung mga, o sabi nila, yung joke, si Faldon, yung nasa customs daw, nawala ang mga, nakaalis yung mga droga, yung mga drugs, di ba? Tas yung ito nga, sa Bureau of Corrections, sa Bureau of Prisons, nawala yung mga prisoners, no? Baka pag sa MMDA daw, baka mawala yung traffic. Pag siya na yun. So, tignan natin. Okay. So, this is now the end benefit of the journey of the Filipino, no? From madiskarte to makaraos, to makaluwag-luwag, to guminhawa. Okay, that's the aspiration. Guminhawa sa buhay. So in your case, you are in your sophomore maybe, or your junior high, or senior high. Sino yung senior high dito? Wala senior high. Ano bang, anong degree niya? College pala kayo. Okay. So, anong year na kayo sa college? 40, graduating na kayo. Okay. So, second year ng iba. Okay. Walang repeater dito, ha? So, lahat kayo puro, magaling. Okay. Next one, okay. These are some of the outcomes of financial inclusion, okay? Why are we doing all this digitalization? Is because of financial inclusion. Because ito yung statistics that I would want to share with you, no? 7 out of 10 Filipinos save money at home, okay? Yung mga nasa ilalim ng kama, etc. yung mga pera nila, okay? And then 22% of adults have outstanding loans, and 4 out of 10 obtain loans from informal sources. Ito yung mga Bombay. Okay? Yung mga Bombay, pag sa palengke, for example, o yung tindahan, uutang siya ng say 1,000 pesos ngayong araw, alas 4 ng madaling araw. Ibabalik yung 1,000 niya, mamayang alas 4 ng hapon, nakabenta na siya at 1,100 pesos. That's 10% interest per day. Ganun katindi yun. So that's why the whole idea here is on how we could help our Filipinos, especially the micro-entrepreneurs, to gain access to affordable finance. Next. Okay. These are some of the things that you also want, that I would like to share with you about how good it is in terms of economic fundamentals that the country has right now. Because again, because of the program, the government, plus the fact that we have, of course, our inflation rate has been record low at 1.7%. And we have seen that a number of monetary policies have also been pushed, especially on the reduction of reserve requirements. So that's why, in fact, the economy of the Philippines is really geared towards greater heights. Okay, in terms of deposits, as I've said, the BSP has come up with a program wherein they will now allow any Filipino to be able to open a savings account, which they call as basic deposit account, without you having to put in any money. Wala ka nang, hindi ka na required maglagay ng opening account, I mean yung pera pangbukas mo. Okay? Saka there's no dormancy fee, etc. Because you are now allowed to open an account. And in fact, you can even deposit your money in any sari-sari store. Okay? So we will be doing that through agency banking. Okay. Next one. Okay. So these are some of the digitalization efforts and also the technologies that would actually accompany those efforts when it comes to digital transformation. So I think you've heard about artificial intelligence, machine learning, biometrics, APIs, and so on and so forth, no? Yung blockchain. So a lot of those technologies are in place. In fact, these are very much aligned with the vision of the government when it comes to really pushing for digitalization and transformation. Okay, I just would like to share this with you. No? Who among you here are familiar with PesoNet or InstaPay? Okay, very good. So ito yung InstaPay, you could practically transfer money up to max of 50,000 per transaction to any bank or any co-op, any MFI that are part of InstaPay network. Okay? So, ganun siya. Dati kasi ngayon, di ba, pupunta ka sa branch, over the counter, nung actual branch nung maghuhulugan mo, pipila ka at doon ka pupunta at maghuhulog ka. In this particular case, it's 24/7. It's 1:many. So, regardless of ano yung destination na bank na bibigyan mo or tatransfer mo ng pera, pwede na. Yung PesoNet naman is it's batch crediting of amounts more than 50,000 pesos. But ang ano niyan, it's at 6 o'clock in the evening. So ano siya, batch crediting siya. So it could be 10 million, 20 million, 100 million ang transfer mo using PesoNet. But InstaPay is up to a max of 50,000 per transaction. And nakita nyo dito, ang laki nung increase, di ba? Exponential. The percentage increase or the growth is at 142,000%. Ganun siya kataas. Kasi it's very convenient. Okay? Okay. Now, this one will tell you how technology has changed, human beings. Okay? Nakita nyo dito? Attention span of, our attention span is much shorter than a goldfish. Okay? That's why, ibig sabihin ito, walang pasensya kung ang screen mo sa mobile device mo ay nagbabuffer. Diba? That's why, if you notice, most of the mobile apps right now, diba, pataas siya, hindi siya pag ganon, pataas. Kasi that's why the mindset is that it has to be fast, it has to be something quick, because yung interest mo on a particular screen, yung eye contact mo sa screen, actually changes in less than 5 seconds. Okay? That's why the challenge for most companies right now is on how to catch the attention of their consumers. Okay? That's why wala na ngayon yung mga pahabaan ng commercial. That's why nakita niyo yung commercial ni McDonald's, ng Jollibee, etc. This became viral because nga, umpisa pa lang, the first 2 seconds would actually catch your attention. That's why tinutuloy mo siya. Okay? Di ba napansin nyo sa isang commercial, it's a 30-second commercial, pero meron siyang continuation or the full length could actually be seen online. Kasi na-catch na yung attention mo. Kasi you want to see the story, yung buong storya niya online. Because mas mahal kasi sa TV ang commercial. Because 30-seconder would cost you at least 500,000 pesos per spot. Okay? Kung nasa probinsya ka. Okay? Kasi prime time yun. Okay? Probinsya sa 500,000 per 30-second advertisement. Next. Okay, again, ito yun. 79% of consumers or customers are willing to share personal data for a benefit. Di ba, nagsabi sa inyo na, okay, meron kang free data or free airtime load or free whatever, easily you could give your address, your birthday, etc. Pamigay yung data mo. But you don't know that that data is gold for the companies because they could actually mine so much information from your data. Okay, that's why you have to be careful because one of the risks of data is the account takeover. Ito yung mga fraud. Okay, it is as if kayo yung gumagawa ng transaction, pero in fact yung transaction na yun is being done by somebody else. Okay, next one. Okay, who among you here would have a savings account? Taas ang kamay. Okay, yung iba, ano iba? Nga, ganon. So walang ano. So yung pagkakuha ng allowance sa parent, diretso na sa gastos, di ba? So in this particular case, about 13 years old would be the average age of account ownership in the of having a cellphone, no? Smartphone device. In fact, yun nga, kita mo, mas mabata kayo, mga 6 years old, 7 years old, are more accustomed to navigating the smartphone device. Okay? But unlike in savings, normally 17 years old would be the average age for a young adult to have a savings account. That's why we have to really push that program on digital literacy and financial education. Okay, so we have this program that we will be launching with DepEd. Ito yung Alcansya Challenge. No? Ito yung, imbis na yung mga schools na may mga pa-Mr. and Miss na pa-contest, na pupunta yung magulang mo dun sa ninong at ninang mo, o yung inaanak mo, kandidata sa ganito, bili ka ng ticket, 5 piso lang. Ganon. So in this particular case, imbis na ganon, ito na lang. Okay, they will become a janitor fish in all their respective homes because they will be getting all the barya inside their homes and get some money from their parents or their relatives because those monies will actually be for their own future because they will now be taught how to save at a much younger age. Okay, and this is in partnership with DepEd. Okay. Now, okay, who among you here are very familiar with QR codes? Taas ng kamay. Ayan, marami. QR codes. Because the name of the game right now would be QR codes. Diba nakita nyo sa SM o sa Mercury Drug, nakita nyo Paymaya QR code, Gcash QR code, WhatsApp, WeChat Pay, or sa Alipay, etc. So lahat na to QR codes na lahat. Okay? So eventually, yung nakikita nyo yung MPOS, yung POS device, yung kinakaskas yung card, okay, mawawala na yun eventually. Because by next month, the BSP will come up with a standardized, with a QR standard that will govern the entire Philippines when it comes to QR payment acceptance. Okay? So kung baga, hindi mo na kailangan pang, kasi Paymaya account holder ako, hanapin ko pa yung Paymaya QR code. Hindi na. Kung nandun yung Gcash QR code, Paymaya ako, it has to be accepted. Okay? Kasi nga standard na across. Okay? Next one. Okay. This is now the status of digital payments in the Philippines. No? Still, in the survey conducted by Better Than Cash Alliance by the US, it says that in 2015, it says that only 1% of financial transactions in the Philippines are done electronically. So 99% are done in cash. So but in this case, medyo nag-improve na ngayon yung digitalization efforts. No? That's why this is something that we would want to really push forward because again, with digitalization, you actually come up with transparency, cost efficiencies, and speed. No? So wala na yung mga under the table. So for example, pag hinuli ka ng MMDA or ng police, sabihin, humingi ng pera sa'yo, transfer ko na lang po sa inyo. Okay, so P2P transfer ka na lang. So, that's why, definitely, it is in India, they have actually done complete transformation when it comes to payments. Okay? Okay, these are some of the enabling regulations that the Philippine government has actually pushed. No? So we have, of course, the national ID system, which will be piloted this month, no? Involving around 20,000 Filipinos. And then we have branch light, basic deposit account, risk-based KYC, outsourcing, cash agents, etc. So in fact, even the core banking will now has been allowed to be on the cloud. Everything is now on cloud. Because that will really reduce the cost of doing business. Okay? Okay. These are some of the partnerships that we've had with all the regulators. Of course, BSP, with SEC, the trade, with Secretary Mon Lopez, with Insurance Commission and Anti-Money Laundering Council. Okay, as I've said, the members of the alliance would be generating more than 90% of all fintech initiative transactions in the Philippines. So FinTech Alliance has the comprehensive and the biggest network of big players in the country. Okay. Okay. Now, you will also be asking yourself, why is it that these companies are actually under one umbrella? So we are united, but we may be competitors. But our main competitor would be how to beat cash and how to scale financial inclusion or inclusive digital finance in the Philippines. No? Because again, a single PayMaya will not be able to cover the entire Philippines or be able to solve the problem of the country, but it takes to have more players in the landscape for us to be able to address those issues. No? Okay, again, the challenge is too enormous and too important for any single player. Okay, because again, imagine banks have been in the Philippines for more than 100 years, and yet 70% of the population are still untapped. Okay, ibig sabihin kasi, yun nga, the only way by which we can extend financial services to the Filipinos would be through the mobile device. Because the only way you can connect to the people would be their mobile device. Okay? Beyond your social media, beyond your calling and texting, your mobile device could be used for other purposes. Because practically lahat na ng inyong mga ginagawa ay nasa mobile device na. Okay? That's why wala na ngayong gumagamit ng camera. I mean, yung camera ng Canon, etc. Di ba? Everything is on your mobile phone, right? That's why nag-bankrupt na si Kodak. Okay, wala nang Kodak. Okay, dati di ba, yung mga parents natin sabihin, mag-Kodak ka muna dyan, Kodakan muna kayo. Di ba? So, wala na rin yung mga ibang mga companies that have been disrupted by the mobile device. Because everything that you do now are actually in your mobile device. Question. Okay, kasi I just want to validate this survey. No? Who among you here, okay, two options yan ha. Who among you here, kung nakalimutan nyo ang cellphone nyo sa bahay nyo, okay, sorry muna, wallet muna. Kung nakalimutan nyo yung wallet nyo sa bahay nyo, who among you here would make a U-turn and go back to your houses to get your wallet? Taas ang kamay. Okay. Sino dito sa inyo, kung naiwan ng telepono, ang cellphone sa bahay, ilan ang babalik sa bahay? Taas ang kamay. Okay. Yung iba, walang wallet, walang cellphone. Okay. Because in one survey conducted, if you forgot your wallet in your home, then the probability of you making a U-turn is around 45%. But if you left your mobile device, the probability of you making a U-turn is about 86%. Kasi lahat ng information, kasi di ba ngayon, nowadays, very few, about 40 to 45% of smartphone users would turn off their mobile device even while they're sleeping. Because nowadays, most Filipinos would have an always-on mobile device 24/7. So kahit tulog, nakabukas ang telepono. Kaya yung peripheral vision mo, kahit nakapikit ka, nakita mo sumisindi yung ilaw ng cellphone kasi alam mo merong nandoon, di ba? O merong ni-inbox ka or may pumapasok o tawag sa'yo. Okay. So again, creating regulatory sandbox, okay, for the industry. This is actually the book that we published, and this is actually the Bible or the jungle handbook for all fintech players in the Philippines, because it's a compendium of all the pertinent regulations and laws governing the operations of fintech. No? And then, as I've said, no, regulations following innovations. Because despite having the absence of any regulation, the regulators have actually allowed fintech players to thrive in terms of innovation. They will not stop you from creating or launching any product or services, provided that you could actually register that as part of what they call the test and learn or regulatory sandbox. Okay? Okay. Ito na ngayon yung taxonomy process according to Professor Mafias, ICOF. Okay. In terms of identifying if that is a particular fintech deployment, we will have to identify the dominant technology component, the value proposition, delivery channel, customers, and revenue stream, and also the product or services being offered. In terms of the fintech categories in the Philippines, kasi you've seen a number of, medyo siguro nahilito na rin kayo sa dami ng mga fintech categories or fintech players in the country. But there are only 5, no? One is payments and remittance service, second is crowdfunding, third would be lending platforms, yung mga pautang, fourth will be alternative trading venue, and lastly, the insurance and asset management. Okay? Ayan. Ito naman yung Ignite, no? This is actually the foundation that was created after the death of BSP Governor Nestor Espinilla. So we came up with this because this is a research-based foundation in terms of pushing for, yung Ignite means Institute for Growth towards National Inclusion, Transformation, and Empowerment. Okay, the idea is on how to empower 24 million adult Filipinos with basic deposit accounts, engage more digital players to reduce the number of unbanked local government units to 25% from the current 35%, and enable more than 25% of grassroots-based financial institutions to be part of the formal financial system. Okay, ito yung board of trustees, no? You could see here a wide array of practitioners in the industry. Okay, ito yan, yung aming oath-taking, no? And of course, yung shared KYC. The whole idea is for us to be able to share the KYC data. Sino may alam ng KYC? Wait. Know your customer, di ba? So kasi ngayon, pupunta ka sa isang bangko, fill up mo yung form, di ba? Pupunta ka sa isang bangko ulit, fill up ka ng form. So it's a tedious process. The whole idea is that once you have been registered with any bank or with any mobile money operator, they could actually extract your data and be able to fill in those fields immediately. That is actually a project that we're now undertaking for the entire industry. Okay? So that's it. So I think this is something that we would want to impart on you, and so far as your involvement when it comes to having all of these initiatives for the country, no? And for us to be able to create what we call the digital economy. Because I think most of you here, especially in your courses right now, this is very important and relevant because you could actually make a difference and a dent in this particular society. So with that, thank you so much, and good afternoon to everyone.
Thank you, Sir Lito, for that very informative presentation. Now it's time for our Q&A portion. Delegates, please remember to send your questions through our mobile app, the CFA Society Philippine app. Our moderator for this breakout session is an investment advisory analyst from the MIO Partners Inc., the asset management arm of McKinsey & Company Inc. She received her Bachelor's of Science degree in Business Administration and Accountancy from University of the Philippines in 2012. She started her work journey in the corporate finance before shifting to asset management when she began pursuing her CFA charter holder in parallel. She became a CFA charter holder in 2016. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome on stage Ms. Kate Burgos, CFA.
So we received some very interesting questions. If you have any questions, please come on, type it down. The first that I saw was from Chef Rezamora, and her question was, what is our roadmap to ensuring safeguards in digital financial transactions, and how are we protecting ourselves from future developments in technologies used for fraud?
Okay, pang Miss Universe ang tanong. Okay, so, okay, I think just to further simplify it, no, I think the intent of the question is more on how to protect the consumers, no? Because while we have all of these technologies, the whole threat is on how to protect the interests of the consumers, no? I think that's why the regulators have been very strict when it comes to ensuring the cyber security, making sure that all of the risks are actually covered, and so on and so forth. Because we have to make a balance, between consumer protection and technology. Because we have to make sure that individual rights of the consumer are practically enshrined and protected at all times. Because technology could be used for abuses. No? So that's why we have to make sure that all of this, that's why sabi nga natin, diba, yung kamukha sabi ko na about yung terms and conditions, because walang nagbabasa ng terms and conditions. So in fact, those victims are actually in a way victimized because of lack of knowledge or lack of awareness of the things that they need to understand when it comes to them dealing with any financial technology companies.
Good. Another question, I think this comes from me, is really help us imagine what you see as a developed fintech country, right? If you look at China, if you look at Singapore, how do they look like? And how do we get from where we are to there?
Okay. In China, for example, they are very much advanced when it comes to mobile payments. No? In fact, in all the merchants in the whole of China, I was just in China 2 days ago, and lahat sila, they are not bringing their wallets, they don't have cash, everything is on mobile phone, everything is through the QR code, transfers, etc. through the mobile app. So in fact, that is the end game for the Philippines. Okay, that's why if you notice, the whole idea is for us to be able to experience, for every Filipino to experience the mobile device. No? I mean, in terms of making the mobile transaction. But the problem in the Philippines is that it's not about the technology itself, but it's actually number one, connectivity. Okay? Kaya nga meron ng third telco na pumasok, di ba? Because in most parts of the country, especially in coastal towns and rugged terrains, wala pa ring signal ang Smart at Globe. Okay, so paano naman aandar ang mobile app mo dyan, di ba? Kung meron mang signal, naka 2G lang. Kasi nga, wala pang LTE, walang 3G, walang 5G, etc. So, and in fact, the main concern is on how to reach those remotest areas for them to experience the digital transformation. So that's why we have several items or several issues that you have to address. So number one, again, is the connectivity issue. Yung issue ng ID system, address na yan because we have the national ID system in place already. But the question is, how fast can the government implement the national ID system? So the end state scenario is really, you don't need to go to the bank because everything will have to happen through the mobile app, because you could do, I call it PSIL, no? You could do payment, investment, savings, insurance, loan dito sa cellphone mo, on top of your other activities that you usually do in your mobile device, like communication, entertainment, social media, etc.
I think aside from connectivity, someone said here that there might be problems in convincing people of applying all these fintech technologies in their lives. What can you advise these people to adapt this, and what are the steps being taken to be able to reach out to these people?
Okay. In fact, there are 4 million mobile apps in the whole world. Okay, 4 million. Okay. So, if you are to look at your Google App Store, etc., so lahat 4 million na in total, more than 4 million. And every day, 2 to 3 mobile apps are being added. Okay, ganun ka prolific ang mobile app, ang technology ngayon. So, to your question, how can the issue? I think the other issue is on trust or on education, on how can these people, can the Filipinos be able to really adapt to it and use it. No? Because the ultimate metric of success is consumer adoption. Okay? No matter how robust, how good your technology is or your mobile app is, but kung wala namang gumagamit, walang kwenta rin. So the ultimate measure of success is usage. Okay? So ang tanong ngayon, paano mo ipapagamit ngayon sa mga Pilipino? Okay? That's why you've seen a number of these mobile apps na talagang hindi naman talaga siya, marami siyang subscribers, but very few are actual active users. Okay? So because number one is that, number one is yung connectivity. Number two is more on, dapat you have to make it very compelling na beyond payments, ano pa yung ibang pwede mong gawin? Parang ginawa ni WeChat Pay na you will no longer leave the WeChat Pay mobile app because practically more than 50 functions are actually inside the mobile app. Pwede kang, pati sa Rakuten in Japan, pwede sa mobile app nila, pwede kang kumuha ng blind date mo. Pwede kang mag-asawa doon kasi maghahanap ka ng ka-date mo, etc. So lahat na nandoon na sa mobile app na yun. So you won't leave that app because everything is already there. So I think it's really more on trust, on connectivity, and also awareness or education for you to be able to see the benefit of you using those mobile apps.
And in relation to that, why do you think that China, even Indonesia, even India was faster to get to that point than us?
Okay, good question. In fact, in India, for example, in India, there was their Prime Minister Modi, came up with a government, instruction or directive that practically they call it demonetization of their currency. So ibig sabihin, hindi na pwedeng gamitin yung kanilang pera, okay? At moving forward, dapat yung pera mo ngayon, everything is now through the mobile app or through the mobile device, okay? Mobile money na, okay? Because imagine, India has over 1 billion people, same thing with China, okay? So, but they were able to do it. Why? Because there is a compelling need for it, matched with a government push to really make it happen. For example, in India, that's why when they did the entire, abolition of the currency and convert it to digital, all government transactions are done digitally. In fact, the biggest, nakita nyo kanina yung sa chart, di ba? Ang pinakamalaking volume when it comes to payment is coming from government. Okay? For example, conditional cash transfer, yung pantawid kami ng Pilipino, that is actually 87 billion pesos a year in budget. Imagine nyo yung binabayad ng income taxes. Imagine nyo yung binabayad sa government sa mga business permits, sa LGUs, etc. So if we can practically digitalize all of this, kasi kung wala namang choice, yung Pilipino, di ba, let's say for example, yung may mga parents yung may negosyo, pupunta sa City Hall or Municipal Hall, magpapa-renew ng business permit or magbabayad ng income tax or whatever. If they have no choice but to pay it digitally at hindi na papayagan sa government na magbayad over the counter ng cash, then wala kang choice, but you have to really use the mobile device. So there should be a need for it. That's why the government has to be the one really pushing this in partnership with the private sector. So the critical element in all of these things in terms of scale and consumer adoption is the need to do it, the need for it.
So it's really the government push
with the private sector.
With the private sector. In relation to that, we have a question here on engaging the private sector. We saw here the ecosystem that we have in FinTech Alliance. And one of the participants has asked, have you been also collaborating with banks like BPI, BDO? I think we know that these banks are already launching their apps, really trying to integrate all these FinTech solutions for their companies as well. So can you please let us see what this ecosystem looks like with the private banks as well?
Yes, in fact, all the universal banks in the Philippines have their own respective mobile apps. No? I think, and in fact, that's why they have embraced the disruption in the Philippines, because without them having to adapt to digital, they will be, a foregone conclusion. They will be out of the business. No? Because imagine, a typical bank would have what, on the average, around 3 to 5 million customers. GCash, PayMaya, Coins.ph would have an aggregate base of more than 40 million. Okay? So kumaga, itong mga players na ito, napakabago lang, and yet they were able to scale immediately because of digital. But in this case particularly, the issue here is on interoperability. That's why yung ginawa ng government, ng PSP, yung InstaPay, is actually an example of interoperability. That you could actually transfer money from your bank, from bank A to bank B, or bank A to bank Z, or whatever. So kumbaga, hindi na siya pain, o hindi na siya issue for you to be able to transfer funds outside your banking ecosystem, outside your bank account.
I guess that's all the time we have for questions.